Welcome to the Rooted and Grounded in Love podcast. I feel so blessed to be here today. I wanted to actually start by just sharing why I chose Rooted and Grounded in Love as the name. So, God's truly been working in me in so many different ways and has been for so long, my entire life. But I really felt called maybe a year or two ago to put on my Instagram profile, Rooted in Love, like in my bio. And that just felt like it really spoke to me. I don't know why. Like, I feel like I've always been someone who really wants to talk about love and wants to learn so much about love. And I was literally born on Valentine's Day, like the day of love. Um, so that's always been really close to my heart. And I really just resonated with this whole thing of feeling like super rooted and grounded in love. And like that's where everything stems from, right? So I think it's just really beautiful. A little God wink that when I started reading the Bible and actually beginning my journey with Jesus, I figured out that there was this verse all about being rooted and grounded in love. And little did I know I've been having this on my Instagram profile for a while, but that wasn't the reason why I had it initially. And then I found out that there's this beautiful verse. It's Ephesians 3:16 through 19. And it says that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with might through his spirit in the inner man, that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the width and the length and depth and height, to know the love of Christ, which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. And I just thought, that's so sweet that you put that in my life before I even came to you. You know, it was like a little like nudge in the right direction, even though I didn't know it back then. But it's cool to look back and be like, huh, that was you trying to speak to me, you know? And I just want to share another Bible verse that came up in my sleep. Honestly, that's like something that I'm going to get into my testimony soon, but I just felt called to share this. God really speaks to me a lot through my own dreams and has. I've always been someone that like dreams a lot and I can remember them too. And yeah, I feel like I've always gotten signs and things in my dreams. So something that he does for me personally is he puts Bible verses sometimes in my dreams or different songs that will just be like on repeat, on repeat. And when I was first starting my journey with God, truly, like deciding that I wanted to walk with Jesus, I had this Bible verse and I didn't know the full thing. All I was really getting in my dreams was like, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. I feel like that is a Bible verse. And sure enough, it's Proverbs 3:5 through 6. And it's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. And yeah, I'm a big feeler if you don't know me. I'm a big feeler, sensitive. I feel like that's a spiritual gift of mine. But it just really touched my heart because I came from lots of new age practices that I was really thinking that I was feeling God in and experiencing God in, and like always came from like very good intentions and with love and seeking the truth, seeking peace, seeking clarity. I think that majority of the people that are in like the new age arena, that's what we're seeking. We want that. There's a void within us. There's something missing, and we're trying to figure out what that is and what's going to fill it. And that Bible verse is like my like guiding light, because just trusting in God, giving everything up to him, not even having to worry about it, just having faith that he knows the way and he's the truth and he knows what's best for me. and leaning not on my own understanding. Because that was a big thing I was trying to do for so long, was like, I was trying to control everything. And I felt like I needed to learn more and try more and do more. And it was never enough. I always had to try harder. I was always healing. I was always trying to level up and become a better version of myself and a higher version of myself and a more authentic version of myself. And it just felt like a never ending loop. You try one thing, you feel better for a little bit, and then it goes away. And then you try another thing and you feel better for a little bit, and then it goes away. And it's like, where can I actually find some lasting peace? And my own understanding was not serving me, truly. I mean, it was all these things that I thought were the truth and thought were going to give me peace and felt good. So, I was me being the big feeler that I am. That was like a way that I was deceived too. It was like the way that I would get feelings in my body and like ask like for confirmation. And sometimes that's the way that the enemy works too. Like if he knows you too really, really well, which is crazy to think. But yeah, my feelings deceived me a lot of the time too. And that's why I'd be like, well, this has got to be real. It's got to be of God, because I can feel the warmth in my body. I can see this white, bright light coming down when I'm doing Reiki and when I'm meditating and when I'm practicing these things. And so this Bible verse is everything to me, because I can't lean on my own understanding. I don't know what's best for me, and I haven't known what's best for me. But if I lean on God and I trust Him and submit to Him, basically just like surrender to Him, like give everything up to Him, trust His plan, then He's going to make my path straight. What more could we want? Are you kidding me? Especially, I mean, I think all of us, we really just want our paths to be straight and just to be on the right path in life. I think it's something like we're always seeking, like, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What is my life meant for? Like, I woke up another day. What am I meant to do with that day? And it's as simple as just trusting in the Lord with all of your heart and giving up your human ways and your ego and your own knowledge of like, well, I feel like this is right. I think this is right. It's like, no, Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life. It literally says that in the Bible. And I found so much peace in that. So let's dive into it. I am going to back up. So I did record a mini version of my testimony on my podcast that's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And that one's called Elevate with Elena. But yeah, I just felt really called by the Holy Spirit, honestly, to start a YouTube channel and to speak more about this and to start sharing my word, my testimony more. And I want to back up a little bit more and get more into my story, because I didn't talk about like the history that I came from besides some of the new age stuff I was practicing. So if you rewind back to my childhood, I came from a Catholic/Lutheran background. So like my mom's side of the family is Catholic. My grandma immigrated from Spain, which is a very Catholic country. Like 99% of the people there, I think, practice Catholicism. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. And then my dad's side was like, I think Lutheran. That's the church that we ended up going to growing up. So like I did all the things. I got baptized, I went through communion, I got confirmed. And I did enjoy going to church when we did. We didn't go all the time, but I've always enjoyed the music. Like I loved singing. I'm not a great singer, I'm not gonna lie, but like I love the singing, love the music, and would sometimes connect with the sermons too. Did Bible study. We call it like CCD, which I actually don't even know what that stands for, but it doesn't matter. Besides the point. And so, yeah, I was in the church, but I never truly felt like I had a relationship with Jesus. Yeah, of course, I knew of him and I knew what he did for us, but I never understood it like to the extent of what he sacrificed for us and his true love for us. I never, there's moments where I probably did feel that or like felt a connection in church, but I'd feel it and then it would like go away, I guess, essentially. Because I wasn't really living a life for him at that point. I didn't know what that looked like. So I ended up seeking a lot of validation and trying to fill this void. As I got older, I was like in my teens, and I think this is a generational curse of my family too. It's like this codependency, people pleasing, anxious attachment, seeking validation from other people, specifically men. I think like the women in my family, it's been like seeking that validation from other men. And um thinking that that is going to show how worthy I am or show my value if I can get someone to love me and accept me and want to be with me. And so that's how I started filling that void, or trying to fill the void, I should say. That was really a place that Jesus was going to come in. But I didn't know that back then. So I was dating someone in high school for a while, like maybe 4.5 years. So starting when I was like 13 up until I was 18. And it was a good relationship for a bit, but it also ended up being like pretty manipulative and controlling and abusive in ways too. And so I felt like there was times where I felt like I needed to do certain things in order to earn his love and to prove that I was worthy. Um, it would be like, do this thing for me to show that you love me. And it was like things that I felt like were going against my values and my morals. And like deep down, I was like feeling shame and guilt around, but I would do them because I wanted that love. And I really, really put him on a pedestal. Um, and I kind of idolized him in a way, truly. And so this has ended up being a pattern with a lot of people that I dated, probably every single person I've dated, honestly, because I was always trying to fill that void. And that was a way that I could temporarily fill it, seeking that validation and that like conditional love that I was receiving. So I ended up going to college. And before college, like I was on the dance team. I was like a rule follower. I'd say like a goody two shoes. I don't like love that phrase, but like I think it's the best way to describe like how I was truly in high school. Like follow the rules. Like my friends would like go out and when we'd have sleepovers and like go TP houses and like just like go sneak out. And I did that a few times, but I would always be like in total fear the whole time. But majority of the time I would honestly stay back because I was like, nah, I'm too scared to get caught. So that was how I was growing up. Um, and so I was a rule follower. I did not want to break any rules. My parents like were a little strict, I would say, but it was, of course, now I know like only to protect me. But as a teenager, you're like, dude, like why can't I do it? All my friends can do it. Um, but I know they were just trying to protect me, and now I know that, but I also didn't understand why. Because they wouldn't really explain it. They're just like, nah, you can't. Um, so anyways, I was in all like the high performance classes, National Honor Society, captain of the dance team, like dance for studio too, and did a lot of things. Like dance took up all of my life, truly. And what am I trying to do is say with that? So that was my high school experience. Okay, so when dance team ended, I was like rebel child. So I'm like, I have been a rule follower. I didn't do anything when I was on dance team. Like, I'm just gonna start like drinking and partying and doing all the things that all my friends were doing back then. And so I kind of went the extreme side. So I wasn't doing really anything. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like all this freedom, all this like craziness, like I want to be a part of it. So I started like really drinking and like partying and going to Mexico for spring break was like wild. I mean, my family was there, but I literally almost got sent home like 3 times because my parents were like, what are you doing? But yeah, it was just like this freedom and this independence, which ended up continuing into college. And within that time frame too, me and my boyfriend broke up from high school. And so I think it was like the freedom of not having commitments with dance anymore, and then also not having a boyfriend anymore that was like trying to control me. It was like, oh my gosh, I can do whatever I want and I'm gonna drink and like party. And like I found validation and filled the void with that too, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, especially with like the college lifestyle. Like I feel like that's so normalized in society, just to, like go to college and party and like get wasted and drink multiple times in a week and like binge drink crazy amounts, like drinking vodka straight out of water bottles. Um, so anyways, yeah, college was wild, to say the least. And yeah, I just constantly wanted to be with other people, constantly wanted to be in social settings, constantly wanted to be drinking, trying to just numb myself out because I am such a big feeler. And I didn't know what to do with all these feelings that I was feeling, from the grief of breaking up with my boyfriend and all the things that happened in that relationship to now having all this freedom and this independence in college. And I just, yeah, alcohol was a way that I figured out could push a lot of that down so I didn't have to deal with it. Although I ended up having to deal with it later on because it just, perpetuates the issue. It just prolongs it from happening. Um, so that was the way that I tried to fill the void. And with that too, like I really seeked validation from men. So naturally, I wanted to like hook up with guys. And I did get a temporary fix from that during that whole experience of like just casually like hooking up and like one night stands and meeting someone at a bar and like going home with them and blah blah blah. And yeah, I really learned how to detach myself from my emotions for the most part during that whole experience too, because I was like numbing myself out with alcohol and everything. And yeah, it was hard. It was hard because I think I even like identified so much with being that party girl and being the one who always had like the crazy stories to tell, even though a lot of the stories were like really sad. Hindsight, like I was so lost. And I think a lot of people feel that way. A lot of women in college, like I think that's so normalized to just like party and hook up with people. And it's like actually having sex with someone is like super sacred and you're combining like your energy with them, and it's like literally becoming one flesh is what the Bible says. And you start to take on their stuff too because of that. Like if they've got demons around anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation and all those other things, and like you start to take that on too, just from being with them in such like a sacred way. And so, yeah, with all of that build up and with all the pushing down of my own emotions, um, once I was done with college, I was like, did not even know what to do with myself. So I would say that was one of my first rock bottoms. And yeah, it's like that whole thing of like when you're done with college, like what are you doing with your life? Adulting. Like I feel like people don't prepare you for that. And so I was still drinking and partying a ton and was dating someone else at the time too. And I I had a relationship in college too, but it was similar to like I putting him on a pedestal, and it wasn't a healthy relationship too. And it's, besides the point, but I just wanted to put that in there. There was another relationship before that, similar vibes as my high school boyfriend. And then I dated someone after college, and very short relationship, but really fell for him too. And at that point, I was really starting to feel like I didn't even know what to do with myself. Like I was definitely like depression mode and like feeling super hopeless and helpless, quite honestly. So I heard about people going to therapy and I'd never tried it. So I was like, well, why not? I'm open to it at this point. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So started going to therapy, which was a godsend for sure, because I became aware of the way that I think about things and the way I interact with other people and relate to other people, which I think is super important. And like knowing my past like history with in relationships specifically, and like how that manifests in my own life and towards partners, and realizing that I had really low self-esteem at that point, and like literally like hated myself. It was such a low point. Um, and yeah, that helped like me gain some like tools and some self-awareness to continue on with the rest of my life and to feel a little bit more of like a sense of contentment and peace. Um, but I still continued drinking and partying, which I felt like always brought me back like 10 steps. So it was like I'd have so much fun in the moment. And then the hangovers started to get worse. So I started to feel like a lot more anxiety when I was hungover. Um, and I also would do things when I was drinking and like just really take it like out of control, like so extreme. Like I just felt like I turned into a person I was not truly, and would, yeah, just like make a fool out of myself. And my friends would like joke about it and they still loved me for who I was, but I would feel so much shame and guilt. And it was just like, I couldn't even get out of bed sometimes. Like, I'd have to be like postmating McDonald's to my house. And it's like sad to think about, but it's true. Just like laying in bed and just not wanting to even look at my phone, not wanting to know anything about what happened the night before. Just like blacking out often. And yeah, like mixing in like other drugs sometimes too. Yeah, it was just like craziness. And so I got to this point where I was like so sick of feeling out of control. And every single time that I would drink, I just felt like I was so lazy afterwards. I was so unproductive. I was trying to start my own business. Like that was a dream of mine. I was trying to be a health and life coach, yet I was not in integrity because I was like getting wasted and eating like not healthy at all and not taking care of my body. Like, how can I be a health coach when I can't even take care of myself? Like, that's not an integrity, right? So, yeah, I started like kind of confronting that and like feeling some like conviction inside of me as I'm like out partying and then telling people how to live their lives over Instagram. It's like, maybe I need to look in the mirror and like change some things about myself. And I really felt that within me. I was like, drinking, I don't know what drinking's doing for me. It's not serving me like in any way. Yeah, it's fun for like a little bit, but then it started getting less and less and less fun because I started feeling sick every time I was doing it. I started like not wanting to drink anything, like nothing sounded good. And I started gaining more self-esteem and more confidence in myself. So I'm like, that was a reason why I was drinking for so long, was to like get that like liquid courage, people say. And I didn't really feel like I needed that anymore. Like I felt pretty secure with who I was at that point. And so that was a godsend, truly. Like, I don't know if anyone out there is like struggling with just drinking and like feeling like it's such a part of society. Like, what else am I going to do with my life? What else am I going to do with my friends? How else am I going to socialize? And caring what other people think. Oh my gosh, pray over it, truly, because it did nothing to serve me, not one bit. I do not miss it. And so I do have a drink here and there. I just want to be honest. If I'm craving something, I'll have a drink. Fine. But it doesn't have like a stronghold on my life anymore like it did back then. Like I felt like I couldn't go out with like just getting wasted. Like it always had to be like all or nothing kind of a thing. And if I was going out, then it was always all. It was never nothing. But I got to a point, it took a few years, honestly, of like trying to like cut back on it and just noticing how it just honestly dug me deeper and deeper into this like dark hole that it just started, yeah, it wasn't worth it anymore. I had so much anxiety. I would even remember what I did the night before, and I'd still wake up with like so much shame and guilt and anxiety, even when I didn't do anything that was like bad necessarily. Um, so yeah, that was a big part of my journey too. And with that too, similar timing, I would say, as I was starting to like kind of just like understand what my relationship with alcohol was, I also was like starting to confront some of the things of like hooking up with people and just casually like having sex and all the things that that entails. I mean, alcohol usually surrounded that. Like I wasn't just gonna like hook up with someone unless I was like wasted usually. And as I drank less and less, I also started to notice too, like there was times when I would like hook up with someone and I would like burst out in tears afterwards. And it was like I couldn't even control it. It was just like I started feeling like, whoa, this is like way deeper than I've been making it. It's a bigger deal than I've been making it for sure. It's way more emotional. It's way more sacred and spiritual. And I just feel like I, f- I was starting to feel more like of my own worthiness and my own value. I'm starting to believe that finally. That I was like, what am I doing? You know, like this isn't, I'm not respecting myself doing this. Like I could feel that. And I felt like the other person wasn't respecting the majority of the time either. It was just like I was like an object or something. And so my spirit was like very conflicted and like would just cry afterwards. And it was like I uncontrollable. I just like couldn't even handle it. And that started to happen more and more that I would engage in these activities that started to feel like they were so normal at the time, but my spirit couldn't handle it anymore. It's like I was so emotional and like, so I just started not, I was like, I need to have an emotional bond with someone if I'm going to be doing this, which again, thank God, because that was pulling me so far away from him and opening me up to so many like truly like demons and spirits that I did not need, that were not of God. And so then as I started moving away from drinking and moving away from just like having random hookups and starting to like heal myself, you know, knowing that it was truly just Jesus healing me. But, you know, I thought I had so much control. It was like, it's kind of addicting, like feeling like, oh my gosh, like I have control over this. Like I can heal, I can work on these things and like see all this development in myself, which is really cool to experience. And so I wanted to dive deeper into spirituality. Like I felt like that with the whole like feeling so emotional and feeling like sex was like so spiritual and sacred. I I was like, there's got to be more to the spirituality thing. Like that kind of started opening some doors for me. And I would pray here and there too. Like I actually like grew up actually always praying. But I never felt really connected to it. So I would just kind of like say the words. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't really have that heart and that faith behind it. And I started exploring my own spiritual journey. So I wanted to get deeper into the healing. I wanted to understand myself more and like my purpose here in the world and to find the truth and to seek more peace in my life because I was still not feeling it fully. And I was still seeking it out in relationships too. Like I would have things like situationships with guys, and I would still just had not, I felt like so out of control in those relationships. Like I would just turn into someone I wasn't and felt so much anxiety and I didn't understand what that was about. Like I just didn't feel like myself ever. And then I went into the spirituality journey. So that kind of started out with tapping into some people that were like in the spiritual community and like kind of just asking them about it. Like, what do you believe in? And like I still had this like Christian base in my head because that was the way I was raised. So there were some things that I was like, I don't want to participate in that. I was a little bit like weary of. And but I would talk to people and they'd be like, it's fine. Like I believe in this and this. Like it's not like black and white. And so I was like, like I'm very like impressionable as a person, or I was at least. Not anymore now that I know the truth. But I was very impressionable and like had very open mind about everything. So I was like willing to seek out different ways of finding the truth. And so I started to like just participate in some different healing modalities, like energy healing, reiki, which I didn't really like know what it was at the time, but I started to open myself up to it and like felt things change. Like truly, I actually was dealing with a lot of like um bacterial infections. And then all of a sudden, after this healing, I felt like they just went away. So I was like, whoa, like that's like really powerful. There's got to be something there. And then I started learning more about my intuition and feminine and masculine energy, which does exist, but it's twisted in the new age world. And your intuition does exist too, but again, twisted into a different way in the new age world. And so I just wanted to learn more about like what it means to be intuitive, what it means to really like lean into your feminine energy. So these were like little gateways of me opening myself up to new age spirituality. And then I was like thinking about dabbling in tarot cards, which my mom has always been like, that's an absolute no-no, especially coming from like the Catholic side of things. But the way it was portrayed to me or like shown to me was like, it's just like a tool for you to tap into your intuition, which I was like, well, that can't be that bad then, right? Like, I'm not using it for bad intentions. I'm not trying to like do bad things to people. Like, I just want to be more connected to my intuition so I could live a more like authentic life and understand myself better. So I ended up buying my first set of tarot cards and using them a ton to just pull like a card a day and see what came up. And I would get so much confirmation and affirmation through that, truly. Because these things do work. That's the thing. Like the energy healing, it worked. The tarot cards, it worked because it has to. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep going back to the things. Like that's how the enemy like keeps you hooked. And it's all a counterfeit for the things that God actually does for you. He's using everything as a counterfeit, truly. Like tarot cards is like prophecy. Like you're trying to figure out, like that's what they use in Jesus like terms versus divination, which is like tarot cards and psychics and mediums and crystals and all these other things. So I had crystals and stuff too. I didn't really like think much about them. I just had them. So it wasn't like at that time, I wasn't like using them for healing purposes. They were just like kind of like there and they were pretty. And like I thought they had some sort of meaning, but I didn't really know much about it. And also, I should mention, I've been doing yoga for like a lot of my life. Like I started doing like yoga sculpt probably starting in high school. And I liked it because it was like a way to move your body and stretch. That felt kind of like similar to dance in a way. Like there was like a sequence that you're following. And so I feel like a lot of dancers end up doing yoga. I've noticed that as like a trend. So anyways, I was doing yoga a ton. Still continuing to do that. Like it always like made me feel good for the most part. And was a way I liked to move my body. And so then I started tapping into the tarot cards and then I wanted to learn Reiki. Like, I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I got another Reiki session and I was like, wow, this is like insane the way it makes me feel. Like, I can feel that energy. So I wanted to learn how to do it, like at least on myself. I didn't know if I was going to do it for other people or not. So I went through this training online. It was pretty easy to access the information to learn how to do it. And learned how to do Reiki and started practicing on myself. And I was like, wow, like, I think this is so cool. The fact that I can feel all of this. And I just felt like I was like becoming more enlightened truly and like understanding like all these like hidden things about the world that like no one else knew about and like feeling these things that I've never felt before. And so I'm like, I have to share this. Like, I want to share this with other people. So I started doing Reiki on other people. And that started becoming a part of my business. Thank goodness it didn't become a bigger part of my business. I think I only practiced for a year and it wasn't like something that was consistently bringing me an income, but I'm grateful that I wasn't. Honestly, I feel like that was God trying to protect me from going deeper into it. And yeah, one other thing I really want to mention too is I was really, really into the whole self-love movement and like doing things for yourself and like building self-confidence, building self-trust, doing things like because they feel good, manifesting things, law of attraction, trying to control your reality or like manifest your reality. And it was like very egocentric. Like I thought I was doing all things for like love and light to serve other people, but like underneath it all, it's very ego driven. Um, and I I think instead of finding God, people have used the self-love things. Like you've got it all within you. Like you don't need anything else but you. But like, no, we need Jesus. And that's what makes us feel that love within ourselves. And that's what fills the void within ourselves. So I was doing like self-love coaching for so long. And so I feel like I need to talk about that as well. Like it's not about the self. Of course, he wants you to like feel love and like not feel like you're not worthy and not feel like you're not of value, but you can access that like through him. It's not about like doing it all on your own. Trust me. I felt so alone and isolated on my self-healing journey without Jesus. Um, so yeah, I ended up moving to Costa Rica. That was like a big thing for me. It's like I felt really called to the land. I'd been on a retreat here in Costa Rica and got to experience all these different healing modalities. And I was like, this land, there's something about it. I love the way I feel when I'm here. And I came to Costa Rica and really started to dabble into like the spirituality because New Age is like very everywhere here. Like going to different ceremonies. Like I was like open to trying whatever because I was like, what's the harm in it? Like I didn't really feel like there was like evil in the world, truly. Like, because God's so loving, you know? But there is evil. That's a whole nother thing. But anyways, I'd open myself up to going to all different kinds of ceremonies. I was doing yoga a ton. I was going to like kirtan, which is like basically like chanting different things towards different deities. And I had this like ping inside of me when I was there too. Like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. I feel like I shouldn't be saying these certain things. Like, you kind of like know deep down, like your spirit gets convicted. But I didn't know enough. I didn't know why I was really feeling that. But I remember feeling it while I was there. And yeah, I would participate in like moon circles and astrology and human design, like wanting to learn more about myself and like what my purpose was and what my life was going to look like. I dabbled in like a lot of the things to like psychedelics a little bit, psilocybin, um, which is mushrooms. I don't even know. The list goes on. Lots of things, a little bit of everything, truly. Um, but yeah, I think like if anything, like I started feeling more and more anxious the more that I exposed myself to all these different things. And so I got in a relationship when I came to Costa Rica too, and had all these feelings. Like I felt like when we went to an ecstatic dance, which is like a dance where you get to like intuitively dance, but like there's music playing, like I felt like my heart was like opening up to the one of my friends here that I'd met at this retreat. I'd feel my heart opening up to him, and I was like, whoa, like what is this? I feel like this is super powerful. And then I think it was like the next day or maybe 2 days later, we like went out to dinner and I didn't know if he thought of me as more than a friend or not, but we started walking down the street and sure enough, he like put his arm around me and then he kissed me and I was like, whoa, like, are we doing this? Like, I thought we were just friends, but I do kind of feel something here. So like, do we want to go down that route? And long story short, we did. And I felt things in that relationship that I've never felt before. Like, it was wild. Um, yeah, and it felt very spiritual. It felt very sacred. But I know in that relationship too, like I was opening myself up to things that were not of God, like having sex and doing yoga and meditation and like Buddhism, um, creating malas. So Mala necklaces are like a yoga thing, which I honestly don't know a ton about it either. That's another thing. I wasn't doing a lot of research on these things. I was just doing them because they felt good, which is not a great thing to do, just so you know. Um, but yeah, I was starting to create mala necklaces and bracelets, which have to do with like a bunch of different crystals and like the healing properties behind them and like manifesting certain things in your life. And so that became part of my business too. And finding healing in that, finding healing in Reiki, and like just self-love, manifestation. I mean, I was dabbling in like all the things at this point. And also in my relationship, I was starting to feel a ton of anxiety all of a sudden. Like I felt really good probably the first like 6 months of the relationship. Then all of a sudden I was like feeling all this anxiety and I'm like, oh, it must be stuff I still need to work through. Like I've dealt with anxious attachment style like in other relationships, like I mentioned, seeking validation from partners, like really putting them on a pedestal and idolizing them and having a hard time trusting them and trusting myself. And there's all these different things. So I started like seeking out like ways of, okay, how can I work through this anxiety and like working on myself, doing these programs, doing all the things I thought I could do to like heal myself and become more aware of the things that I'm working on and my triggers. And some of that is definitely important. But it wasn't making me feel any better. Like nothing was making me feel better. Like I'd feel better for like a short amount of time. I'd like do a tarot reading and like get some affirmation, but that was like about it. I would do a Reiki session, feel good for like a little bit, and then it'd go away. And I got to the point where I was like just riddled. I'd wake up with anxiety, riddled with anxiety constantly all day, obsessing over my boyfriend at the time, obsessing. I couldn't even control the thoughts that were coming in. It felt like it was like constantly, I couldn't do anything. Like I was like losing myself again in this relationship. I was like just I couldn't distract myself from all the thoughts about like he would work and go on trips for like a week or two at a time. So I had like had so much time to myself, like when I wasn't with him. So worried about him like texting me back and worried about what he was thinking and just putting all of my energy towards the relationship that I would like lose myself and like my consistency with my business. I'd lose my own self-care practices. I wouldn't do like anything. And then I'd just be riddled with anxiety because I'm sitting here alone all the time, just with my thoughts, like the most intrusive thoughts. Like the enemy was like coming in hot because I was just isolating myself and coming into my brain. It was like all these thoughts that I were not mine, truly, making me feel like I was crazy, literally. And I started praying to God. You know, you get to that point where it's like, I don't even know what else to do. I'm gonna pray. And like I knew I would pray to God when I was doing Reiki and when I was going through hard times, but I didn't pray to him often. And so I was praying, like listening to worship music, like bawling in the shower, like, please, God, like, help me work through this anxiety. Like, what is going on? Give me clarity, give me peace. I can't do this. It's crazy. I feel crazy. Um, he gave me a sign. He said, go to church. So I didn't know what to do. There's this big festival in Costa Rica called Envision. And it's like a very like spiritual, like new agey kind of festival. And for some reason, I didn't really want to go to it. Like my spirit was like, I feel like there's like a lot of dark energy there. I feel that. And I knew my boyfriend was going. I knew other friends were going. And I knew I was staying with my boyfriend the week of that festival. So I was like, I'm going to go literally insane with anxiety if he's going to this festival and I'm not. I'm just sitting at his house without him. So I was really praying about that. And that's when I had that sign, like, go to church. And so I knew one of my friends, Janae, she was going to church. And so I asked her if I could go with her, went with her. And during the sermon, of course, since Envision was coming up, they started talking about the Envision Festival and how it's literally like demonic, not of God. And that was the sign I needed, like the exact signs, like don't go to Envision, don't go to it. But the sermon was like intense for me. Like I wasn't ready to like confront the truth. And like I also just like wanted to live like my worldly life of like I wanted to be in control and I wanted to be with my boyfriend. I wanted to try to control like my anxiety that I was feeling, honestly. And I thought that I needed to go to the festival to do that. And if I was just sitting alone all the time, I was going to go crazy. Like I didn't know how to, I just felt insane. And so, I did end up going to Envision for one of the days with my boyfriend, and we did mushrooms, and it felt really good, honestly, for the most part. Like I was like, this is really fun. And I felt a lot of love and I was dancing a lot. And then towards the end, it was like, whoa, some of the music and stuff, it was like, I felt such dark energy. And so, wow, like demonic energy, truly. Yeah, and I just felt like I had an energy hangover after that. Like I was like my spirit was like so like grieving truly from going to that. I felt so like bleh, like it was weird. Um, and then we ended up going on a trip shortly after that Envision Festival with some of his friends that were in town for the festival. We went and visited a different city in Costa Rica. And again, it was just anxiety the whole time I was there. I just felt like, what is going on? And so we get back from the trip and I started getting like physically sick, physically ill. I couldn't digest anything. I couldn't keep like anything like, yeah, like down without just going straight through my system. And yeah, I felt like just weak and I felt like I was in constant fight or flight. And then I ended up going on a retreat that my friend invited me to. So I went on a retreat here in Costa Rica, like in the city that I live in. And my boyfriend at the time wanted to take a break from talking. And that just triggered my anxiety more. But again, it's okay. Like I needed to work through that. And it was meant for a reason. Like God was definitely putting me into a season of like isolation, trying to get closer to me. And so I prayed a lot because oh gosh, that week was terrible. At the same time, I was opening myself up to so many things with yoga, with um, like tarot cards and oracle cards and angel cards and different ceremonies that we were doing. Uh, s- just so many different things. It was all the healing modalities. I was doing Reiki at the retreat as well. And I started praying. I said the ultimate prayer of like, God, if this relationship isn't for me, remove him from my life. If this isn't of you, God, like remove it from my life because I can't handle this anxiety. Or at least if it is of you, like let me figure out or like help me manage this anxiety and how to work through this in the relationship. Sure enough, I get out of the retreat. My boyfriend comes back home because he was also gone for a trip at the time when we were taking space and he breaks up with me. And it's a relationship. I'm like panicking. I'm like, whoa, I feel like I put so much time and energy into this. Literally, like all my thoughts have just been consumed with that relationship. And so I ended up feeling called to take my Bible home with me to Minnesota. I was like, I just need to get away from this physical environment. I need to remove myself. I'm going to take my Bible with me. I'm going to leave the tarot cards and I'm going to go home and be with my support system. And I started reading the Bible, sure enough, on Easter. I felt called to finally. I had friends like in my ears for over a year to like, just get into the Bible, pray about it. And I was praying here and there, but the Bible, for some reason, I felt some sort of like confliction. Like I just didn't, how could just this book tell me what to do? I just didn't understand it. I just thought that life could not be that black and white. It had to be gray because of all the different things that I'd learned, all the different like philosophies and theologies and ways of thinking that I've been exposed to. And so I started reading the Bible getting into it, trying to stay consistent with reading every single day and just like starting with the gospel of, I think Matthew is where I started, which is my brother's name. And so continued doing that and grieving the relationship and taking a lot of space to rest and started praying a little bit more. And then my friend invited me to a Bible study. And that's where like everything really started to shift and like get some momentum. So God already kind of like had me pulled in a little bit. I was learning more about him, and I started also watching The Chosen. That show is incredible. I love having that visual of his life and like getting to understand him better and like see him, in that way. Reading is different than like visually seeing something. And you just, oh my gosh, my love for him grew so much, dude, from watching that show. For Jesus. And so I went to this Bible study and met Britt, who is an angel. Truly, she's a pastor, and she's the most genuine, authentic, like just has such a welcoming, loving presence, non-judgmental. And we started reading Romans 12 was the one that she wanted us to go over. Once I started diving into it and having it explained to me, like what the verse actually means and how does it show up in our lives, and getting to talk about this in like a group setting, I was like, whoa, like I'm like not living my life of God. So many things that I thought were like of God are not of God. And I was like finally ready to like open my eyes up to it. And I started asking a ton of questions. Like during this whole thing too, my head is like starting to like pound and my ears are getting so hot. Like I felt like I was on literal fire. And my head was like pounding because I was like getting total spiritual warfare during this experience of like the enemy trying to get in, like, oh no, God's almost got her. I gotta confuse her a little bit. I gotta confront this and get into her head about it. And yeah, just the loving presence, the way she prayed over all of us, the way she explained things felt so loving, like of God. And so then I ended up having this headache. My friend drove me home, the one that invited me to the Bible study. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't normally get headaches like this, but I just feel like this is something different. So I ended up going to bed that night, woke up still with the headache. That never happens. I'm like not one that gets migraines or anything like that. So I'm like, this is like really weird. But I already had plans to go with that friend to get coffee. And so we went and got coffee, and I told her that I'm still experiencing this headache. Like, what is happening? She's like, I feel like this is spiritual warfare. Can I pray over you? And I was like, absolutely. Like, just help me get rid of this. And so she started like rebuking, like casting out all these like demons through this prayer. Sure enough, the headache goes away. And yeah, it was like these demons trying to infiltrate my brain. And then I had the most beautiful conversation with her about the Bible, and I felt so open to learn more of what it means to live a life in walking with Jesus. And from that point on, it was like one thing after the next. I mean, spiritual warfare was like majorly hitting me. And I was just having nightmare after nightmare after nightmare every single night, waking up between like 12 and 3 and just praying, trying to learn. Like that was a part of the Bible that Jesus brought me to like pretty early on to my relationship with him, was the gosh, and I'm blanking on what it is, but the whole armor of God, spiritual warfare, like putting on the whole armor of God. And he kept guiding me to that part of the Bible like multiple times because he knew that the spiritual warfare is going to come on hard, especially with all the things that I'd exposed myself to previously. So that's why I started getting these nightmares. That was a way that demons were coming in for me personally, but they all come in all different kinds of ways, like physical pains, different sicknesses, anxiety, doubt, thoughts, all those ways. And then I was having all these nightmares, and then I started meeting with that pastor too, and like kind of just she was helping guide me along on my journey. I would tell her the things that were happening. She would pray over me, and there was this one prayer. I was really seeking clarity at the time about the mala necklaces that I was making and all these like beads that I had that were different crystals. And I didn't know if it was of God or if it wasn't of God. I wasn't sure because like people have crystals and stuff in their homes, but like don't have the like any intention behind them. So I was like, well, maybe it's fine. I don't know. So I'd been praying about clarity for that. Then I did not tell that pastor, Britt, that I was praying over that. But she starts praying over me and is like, God, like, please help Elena figure out what things she needs to remove from her physical environment, like in her room that she's staying at her mom's place, in the suitcase, in her suitcase that she has. She specifically said suitcase. And I'm like, that's random, but okay. Like, I'm going to look to see what's in my suitcase. At that point, I'm like, I don't even know what's left in my suitcase. Like, I'd been there for a month. Like, I thought I'd already unpacked everything from my suitcase. Sure enough, I go into my suitcase, and all that's left in there is a pair of flip-flops, a book about crystals, and the actual beads of crystals. I was like, if that isn't a sign, that's straight from God. So sure enough, I did throw it all away. Didn't have nightmares that night. Thank God. Um, so yep. Another really beautiful thing that I want to share too was so I talked about how I had feelings of anxiety a ton with my relationship, and that continued on to when I was going through the grieving process of letting go of that relationship. And yeah, I was still having thoughts about the relationship and about him. And then once I started meeting with the pastor and diving more into the Bible and just like really leaning on Jesus, I felt like it was like all of a sudden one day, I just didn't have those feelings anymore. I didn't have those feelings of anxiety, trying to control things. It was like a complete, like I just got delivered from it, truly. And I do believe those are demons that were like attached to me and that have probably been attached to me for a long time because of all the relationships that I've been in that had experienced very similar feelings. I just felt like the chains were broken and I didn't feel it anymore. And I don't know how to explain it other than something majorly supernatural happened. Jesus literally healed and got rid of that demon that was had a stronghold on me in relationships that doesn't anymore. Thank God. And I was like, I think I want to get baptized. I had already been baptized as a child, as a baby, but I wanted to make the choice for myself. And I'd never actually had a relationship with Jesus until now. And so I felt like it was only right to do it again. And so I did it with Britt, that pastor. I went to a lake. It was like a day or two before I came back to Costa Rica. And everything that she was speaking and praying about was just like everything I needed to hear, and felt the Holy Spirit truly fill me. And I just keep praying and keep leaning into my relationship with God and reading the Bible. And I've never felt more peace. I've never felt more contentment. Granted, I've definitely had feelings of like suffering and going through my own trials and letting go of my past self, truly. Um, but that is also part of it too. Like you got to let go and grieve your past self when you're stepping into this new life of Christ. And it's also worth it. Like he comes back like tenfold every single time and shows me like the reasons why I'm suffering and going through the things that I'm going through, and just unwavering love and knowing like when I put my faith in him and surrender to him, like he always shows me or comes back showing me love and that I can trust him and that he cares so deeply about me and what my heart wants. and desires. And yeah, I'm so, so grateful that he finally got me back and that I have a relationship with him again. I guess really for the first time. And once the Holy Spirit fills you, you naturally just don't want to do sinful things. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, it's not like it's like super challenging. Like, at times, like, yeah, I feel like I don't want to go to certain events or surround myself around certain people just because I know there's going to be like temptation there potentially. But when I ask God to just give me strength in those moments, if I do end up doing things or just in general, like giving me strength, like I have so much strength from Him because of the Holy Spirit living within me that it's not even hard to live like a Christ-like life, especially when you feel that kind of peace and love. Like, it's so worth it. It's so worth everything. I have like no desire to do the things that I was doing before anymore. As I finally found the truth and I finally found peace that I've been seeking. None of those other things gave me that ever. It was all counterfeit. And that's what the devil does. He disguises himself as the angel of light, what it says in the Bible. And he counterfeits everything from God. So, like reiki, that's like hands on healing and laying of hands. That's of God, but reiki is not. You're channeling and opening yourself up to different demons, spirit guides, same thing. Even if you're praying to God, that's another thing too. The devil doesn't care about your intentions. You're doing yoga, you're praying, you're thinking about God. He doesn't care because you're doing the postures that are uniting you with those certain deities and demons. Same thing with tarot cards. I would pray before I did tarot card readings. Still opening myself up to demons. Yeah. That's why, I mean, he talks about it in the Bible because he doesn't want you to do those things because they're just going to pull you further away from him. And he wants to be close to you. He wants to have a relationship. He loves you so much. That's why he died on the cross for us. That's why he sacrificed his life. So you didn't have to sacrifice your own self. But at the same time, you also have free will, so you get to choose. Because if you didn't have free will, that wouldn't be true love. He loves you so much, and he wants you to love him, that he had to give you free will to be able to choose him, to be able to have faith in him. If he didn't give you free will to make these decisions for yourself, that's like a dictator. He's like forcing you into a relationship with him. And that's not true love. It has to be a choice that he's chosen you. And he chose to give up his life to show his unconditional love for you and to die for our sins so that when we do sin, we don't immediately go to hell. No, we just have to repent and we're forgiven. That's it. He doesn't want you to feel shame. He doesn't want you to feel guilt. He just wants to lead you on a path that's going to keep you close to him. He wants to have a relationship with you. And I think some of these people, a lot of people, I guess, in my life, I know have like church hurt or have had bad experiences with the church in the past or Catholicism or different people in Christianity, judging or shaming or making them feel a certain way. And I think that's why we seek out other things. That's why we rebel. That's why we are so closed off to having a relationship with Jesus. But I can't tell you how fulfilling it is. It is worth everything to know that you have eternal life and everlasting love with Him. That's the most loving thing in the whole entire universe. So I just wanted to tell you what my journey's been like and how deceived I was doing all these things that I thought were bringing me closer to God, but were more than anything pulling me away from Him. And how good He is, even though I open myself up to all this other stuff, that He still got through to me. It's a miracle. He still got through to me. I was so against it for so long. I don't know. I don't even know why. I grew up Christian. I don't know why. But now I've been saved, and I just want other people out there to know that you also can find peace. You can also find the truth. You can also feel that love, that unconditional love. All you got to do is have faith in Jesus, accept a relationship with Him, accept Him as your Savior. Read the Bible, get to know Him, get to trust Him, have faith in Him. Lean on Him for your plan for your life and your purpose and your gifts, because He knows it all and He's the creator of the universe. He's got it all. He knew you and you were in the womb. He literally knitted you together in the mother's womb, your mother's womb. He knows every single hair on your head. He knows your heart. He knows your deepest desires. Like, He loves you that much. He knows literally every inch of you. He knows every single thought, and He still loves you, and He still forgives you, and He still wants a relationship with you. It's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. So, if you have questions, prayer requests, anything, or if you want like help knowing like what is of God, what's not of God, like especially if you're in the new age worlds, because that was I mean, I'm still navigating some of that myself too, but learning more and more every day, watching other people's testimonies, reading the Bible, praying about it. I'm here for you. If you have questions, you want to talk to me about it. I love you so much, and Jesus loves you more, truly. And I'm sending you all my love. We'll talk soon. Thanks for being here.